going on, guys? Welcome back to our channel. It's Kate
and Martin,
and if you're experiencing any low back pain, this video is for you.
Today we're going to be taking you guys through a few different movements to start mobilizing the hips that will eventually fix that lower back pain that you've been feeling. Typically when we have low back pain, we want to go to a physical therapist, we want to go get a massage, and we want to start working out that low back area. But doing that is very much like a band-aid, right? You can go get massages as often as you want, but that low back pain just keeps coming back, time after time. Low back pain is typically stemmed from unresolved mobility issues from our daily movement patterns or lack thereof, which is something that we gotta fix right away, right? Usually that comes from lack of mobility in the hips, and that travels up to the lower back.
So basically what we're trying to say is that your low back is not in pain because your low back is injured. It's in pain because it's having to overcompensate for the rest of your muscles that are not working properly. For example, if your hips are tight because you've been sitting at a desk all day and your muscle is in a very shortened position, whenever you finally do decide to stand up, you can't stand up all the way because they're tight, and so your lower back is having to take over. And when your lower back takes over in an attempt to help you stand upright, you're overworking it, which is resulting in lower back pain.
So very quickly, we're gonna show you a quick little test that you guys can go through at home to show you exactly how that happens. So we're gonna do a little skin pinch test. So Kate's gonna show you guys, stand up, bend over a little bit, and you're gonna pinch the skin right in front of your hips, right where your hip flexors are, which is gonna mimic what happens when you stand up when the hip flexors are in a shortened position. So when she comes up and tries to extend, the hip flexors right in that shortened position start to pull down, which is the same feeling that you feel when you grab the skin in the front of your hips. And that's when you have to really hyperextend in the lower back to stand up. So when you see somebody that's walking with that forward lean and they start to hyperextend at the spine, right at the lower back, you'll probably be able to pinpoint that to tight hips, which, as we spoke about in this video, leads to that lower back pain.
So if you guys already start feeling better, let's get going. Alright, so today we're going to be taking you through these movements on our balcony just to show you guys you can do them absolutely anywhere and everywhere. The only two things that you're going to need for these movements is a band and somewhere to anchor them onto. If you don't already have bands at your house, you can head to the link in our description. It'll take you to our website and you can shop the bands with us.
Ready? Let's get started. Alright, so before we begin, we wanted to demonstrate how to anchor the band around any object. The only thing we ask you is to make sure the object is sturdy and that it can hold your own body weight. And once you loop it through, pull on it to make sure the band and the object are both secure. For this first exercise, you're going to need a band and a foam roller if you have one laying around. Kate is actually going through a passive banded distraction for the hip, and I know that you may see the band around the ankle here, but the band can be used one of two ways. You can either hook it around the ankle or you could hook it around the hip, which is what you're gonna see in the rest of the exercises in the video. Hooking it around the ankle actually allows you to pull the joint surfaces apart so that you can reset the joint into a good position. And hooking it around the hip is actually gonna help you increase movement through the joint capsule so that you can restore how the joint moves inside the joint capsule itself. Essentially, all we're doing is helping your joints get to a better position. A few things that are important to point out here: we're killing two birds with one stone. Yes, we're getting that hip distraction with the band, but we're also going through a little myofascial release for the calves with that foam roller because, well, why not? Also, I know that it may be a little bit hard for you to tell from this angle, but Kate is leaning back so that she could actually bring her hips slightly off the ground so that band can actually do the work and create that space that we want within that hip joint. This next exercise, we're focusing on the hip flexors and adding an anterior band distraction. That means the band is forcing the femur to move anteriorly or forward inside that hip joint capsule. I want you to hang out in this position for at least 2 minutes, and you can start to go through different progressions if holding it does not provide enough of a stretch for you. So we're going to focus on squeezing the glutes and maintaining a neutral spine, bracing your entire core. If you want, you can add a little bit more tension on the band by pulling it forward or pushing it forward. And if you need a little bit of a deeper stretch, we're gonna go into what mimics a couch stretch. If you have a bench, box, or couch that you can rest the top of your foot on, it'll definitely be more comfortable. Otherwise, you can use the second band to position that quad into a deeper stretch like I'm doing here in the video, which is definitely gonna add more tension on the hip flexors. And if you want to add an even deeper stretch, go ahead and raise the arm on the same side as that leg and rotate away from it. Just don't forget to breathe properly by exhaling as you rotate away and inhaling when you come back to the middle. Now, if you try to go into that position and it is not comfortable for you, your body's just not ready for it, forget about the KAIT stretch. We're just gonna focus on raising both arms overhead, and you're gonna rotate away from that hip just like we did before. Just make sure you're breathing properly, exhaling when you rotate away, inhaling when you come back to the middle, and don't forget to do the same thing on the other leg for another 2 minutes. Now that we've created a little bit more of a space in the joint capsule by doing a passive band distraction at the beginning with KAIT and then an anterior band distraction, we're gonna go into a posterior band distraction and position ourselves into a goalie stretch. So this is gonna start to open up the hips a little bit more. It's gonna stretch out the adductors. So it's gonna be a very nice stretch for your groin. And the band is really gonna help you get into this position and hang out for a little bit longer without you actually having to go through an active range of motion. Right, so for the first few seconds, we're just gonna let that band do the work passively. We're gonna let the band pull us back into a deeper stretch, and afterwards, we're gonna start to really go through an active range of motion by creating a little bit more resistance on the bands. You wanna inhale as you go forward, and exhale as you let that band pull you deeper and deeper into that squat, really opening up the hips. And if you guys understand the anatomy of the body a little bit, you saw when KAIT extended her arms overhead, that created a deeper stretch in the hips by adding a stretch to the lats, which are essentially connected to the hips. Next up, we're gonna go into a lateral band distraction, right? So we're gonna create a little bit more space in the hip joint capsule with a lateral distraction. And we're gonna go into a pigeon stretch. If you guys have ever done a pigeon stretch before, you know that it'll stretch out your glutes and your piriformis. However, by hanging out in this position and having that band pull you laterally, you can start to really wiggle the hips back and forth, and you'll start to grind out all that junk that you have inside the hips that's built up over time. And if it doesn't feel great when you're going through that movement, trust me, just keep going. If the pain is unbearable, that's obviously a different story. But if there's mild discomfort, that could be due to an impingement in the hip where the femur sits way too close to that acetabulum, which is the hip capsule. That's gonna cause discomfort due to the compression on the ligaments and the cartilage inside the joint. And that's why we recommend for you to keep going through that mild discomfort so that we can create that space within the joint capsule and have that pain start to dissipate. However, for whatever reason you really cannot handle it, stay in that position for 2 minutes and let the band do the work by itself. For this next exercise, we're doing another lateral band distraction. However, you'll notice that instead of putting our hips in an internally rotated position, it's gonna be more of an external rotated position, and it's called a world's greatest stretch. We're just adding a band to it, and if you have the flexibility or the mobility for it, you can start to rotate that upper body, get a little bit of a thoracic rotation, which is gonna start to open up the hips a little bit more. If you can't, just hang out in this position. You can rock the hips back and forth, open up the knees a little bit more laterally, and that's gonna create more space within the hip capsule. I want you guys to do this also for 2 minutes on each side. And if you have the flexibility that KAIT has, you can go ahead and put your elbows on the ground as well, which is gonna create a little bit more space. And if you notice, most of the exercises in this video are unilateral, meaning we're working both sides individually. Reason being is we're not always symmetrical in the way that we move, and that's why we need to address all limbs individually to achieve the same results on both sides. And we do encourage you guys to pay attention to these differences so that you can start to focus on minimizing these discrepancies and get one step closer to a healthier body. And lastly, we're gonna show you 2 different variations on how to stretch the hamstrings while opening up the hip capsule posteriorly with a posterior band distraction. So I want you to focus on a few things during this exercise. First off, we're gonna go into a hip hinge, focusing on maintaining a long spine, right? A flat back. If you're mobile and flexible enough to bend over a little bit more, don't be afraid to do so. But as soon as you feel like you're losing the integrity of your spine and your core is no longer braced, you've gone a little bit too far. While you're in that position, you're gonna go through flexion and extension at the knee, which is going to shorten and lengthen the hamstring. So this is gonna increase the range of motion of the hip, the flexibility of the hamstring, and relieve that tension that you have in your lower back. Now, if being in that position for 2 minutes is just too uncomfortable for you, or maybe you just want to get a little bit more work and keep stretching out the hamstrings and opening up that hip capsule posteriorly, we're gonna lie on our back, place that green band as close to your hip as possible, grab another band to help you stretch through that hamstring passively, right? You don't want to go through an active stretch here because your hip flexors are gonna really have to activate, and that's gonna undo all the work that we did before. And just like every other exercise, make sure you hold each side for 2 minutes so that we can let the muscles become a little bit more pliable and create that space in the hip capsule. Alright guys, thank you so much for watching this video. We hope that these exercises can start to help you guys relieve that lower back pain that you've been feeling. I want you guys to perform all these exercises every single day from the day that you watch this video until that lower back pain starts to subside. After that, we want you guys to maintain. Alright, go through maintenance, do this a few times a week because you will continue to live your life. You will continue to sit for work. You will continue to sit when you drive, when you watch TV. So, continue to do these exercises long after you feel that low back pain subside so that it doesn't come back.
If you guys are in pain anywhere else in your bodies, comment down below and we can try to find the source of that pain and try to help you throughout your mobility journey.
Alright guys, so if you found this video helpful and you enjoyed the video, go ahead and give it a like. And if you have somebody that can benefit from this video, go ahead and share it with them so that they can also fix their lower back pain. And don't forget to subscribe so that every time we put up a new video, you guys get a notification and you don't miss the video.
Have a good day guys, see you in the next video. And today, if you are having the back pain, let us know. This is for you. This is gonna help you out. This is gonna do big things for you. Why are you clapping? I'm clapping. So basically what we're saying is that your lower back is injured. You're a liar.